Punctuality may be the best indicator for success. This is the focus group.
It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the focus group with Tim Bennett
Staunch.
and John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business, except when we're not.
Hey, welcome to the focus group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host, Mr. Tim Bennett. FocusGroupRadio.com is our website, and if you go there, you'll find out all you need to know about the two of us, and you'll also find all our media there. Our television broadcasts. Television broadcast? Yeah, well, our YouTube broadcast and our Facebook Live, and of course our Unbuttoned podcast, which is available every Tuesday, about 20 minutes long, 3 topics. That thing's gaining a lot of popularity, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's short.
So it fits perfectly with our new world of short attention span.
That's right. We talked about that, right?
However, many of our listeners complain when we have a show under an hour because one listener sent me a note saying, I can't clean the whole house now.
We'll do the bathroom.
Apparently we're background for,
House cleaning.
for Hazel Burke's coming to town to clean things up, right?
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. People get used to a certain thing, and that's that.
They do. They get very hardwired into certain things, yeah. So here we are in the third week of January. It's flying by already, right?
I was going to say, Christmas was a month ago.
I have to say again about the holiday season this year.
Holiday season.
It was very abrupt.
It was.
It just felt like a train hitting a brick wall and then gone. Like it was Thanksgiving, wham, boom, and you're done, right?
And I think people took it. To me, it seemed as if people took decorations down a lot earlier too. Gone, done. Get in, get out.
Well, depends. So I found out that they're like upstate. Some houses keep their decorations up almost to the end of January, and it's because you mentioned something to me as well, and I heard it from a neighbor. Little Christmas or the Orthodox?
Well, Little Christmas is, I think, the 12 days after or something, but a lot of the Orthodox religions celebrate in the beginning of January. So Greek Orthodox.
They keep the stuff up, right?
Yeah, or you keep your Christmas stuff out. But we always kept it up into, I would say, a week or two into January, but
this year,
it felt very old.
I think the week right around New Year, we saw our neighbors, Todd and Marge, they were pulling down. They kept the harvest scarecrow up because that's kind of all year. Right?
See, people put stuff up. A lot of people put stuff up before Thanksgiving, right? Or if you did it right. So if you think about it, you put it up 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, then you had
before
5,
Christmas.
6. Yeah, you had a lot of weeks.
So you could still go a couple after, I guess. I don't know. I just
All
threw my
right,
pumpkins out.
And by the way, the last time you threw pumpkins out, you ended up getting a pumpkin patch.
That's why. That's what I do now. So I get these pumpkins, and then this is on my 3rd year.
They grow.
I just throw them in the flower bed, and next thing I know, August comes, and I've got
pumpkins,
40-foot pumpkin vines growing all over the yard, and I've got 6 white pumpkins this year, which were kind of cool.
Those are interesting.
So I kept them and let them dry out in the house, and then I just put them out in the flower beds. I'm taking one over to Brian's.
Okay.
Because he says he wants to grow one too. See if it works. Do nothing. You just throw it.
I'm taking one. Here's how I see this happening. You're going to go to Brian's. He holds up the pumpkin. He throws it on the ground, and you walk away.
Squirrels will get in it. They'll eat some seeds. They'll do whatever, birds. But I don't know why, people try to plant seeds and do all this stuff to grow. I just throw it. Gross. I don't know how it works.
Are you sticking to any of the resolutions you made?
So far, I only made one. I was going to eat better.
That was very, very smart. That's very smart.
I've done very good so far, and I've cut down on most sugars if I could. So, and no rice, no pasta, no bread. No rice, no pasta, no bread. What am I?
Well, the biggest one is sugar, in my opinion.
Yeah, and inevitably because no sugar. So
I have been reading a lot. A lot. It must be because it's a fad, right? This intermittent fasting.
Yeah, everybody's talking about that.
So I read an article by a woman. I forget what magazine she wrote for, but I thought she had the smartest take. She said, she goes, "I'm going to get on this bandwagon, but I'm sensible. I like food. I like my evenings with my family, the whole bit." So she decided to skip breakfast. And in her case, this was coffee with the cream and the sugar and everything else that went with it. So she gets up, she drinks water, and then her first meal of the day is at noon. and she's on the 8 something, so it's 8 hours.
So noon to 8. She can eat anything she wants, noon to 8.
16 off, 8 on. Is that the, yeah. So she said it works like a charm because she gets to have a great lunch. Maybe she sees friends, and she has her normal dinner, and then she stops eating around 8 o'clock.
You have to stop at 8. You have to give your body 16 hours, whatever, to repair and do what it does for itself when you fast. But we met a woman out in Colorado when we were doing one of our consulting gigs, and she does that. That most people do that. They don't do breakfast because most people don't eat breakfast. So she gets up, she has some water, she does a workout,
You're a
she does
breakfast
some
guy.
errands. I like breakfast.
I do too.
So, but that's not going to work in intermittent fasting unless you can only eat. You got to figure out what your 8 hours is. You could get up and have breakfast,
But then you'd
have to
done it.
stop at 2, right? 2 o'clock. You can't eat anymore.
Because I eat at like 6:30 or 7. Yeah.
So you could work, but yeah.
But
But she lost 25 pounds. She said doing nothing other
Just
than
by-
changing when she ate and narrowing it down to that 8-hour window. And she said she still ate and drank and did what she wanted, but she said she did find herself not having as much because she knew she had this, 8-hour time frame. So you inevitably aren't going to eat as much. If you're not hungry, don't eat.
Now, would you say, like, does she exercise?
Yeah.
And she had energy for it?
Yeah. She got up in the morning. She said she exercised. She'd drink her water, do whatever. And then after she was done exercising, then she would have her lunch. She'd exercise 10, 11 o'clock, and then she'd start at noon.
The science is interesting because minus the insulin response, when we start eating, that's trigger. Minus that, the body directly burns fat to achieve its goals. And I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting. I'm puzzling.
You're
about
looking
it.
at, oh boy. You can't do it. You New Yorkers.
Why in particular?
I don't know a New Yorker
can a New
reads
Yorker
before 8
not?
o'clock. Do you boys? What time do you boys have dinner? We have boys.
Do you guys even have? We have Garrett and Steve in the booth. Do you guys actually? You're breakfast people, right?
No.
No
Not
one's a
really.
breakfast.
Never.
We have Luba in the booth too. No.
Maybe on the weekends. Like
What time do you eat dinner?
8 or 9 o'clock.
See, you New Yorkers.
Yeah.
You eat late.
But you eat more when you have breakfast because your metabolism starts working and then you're hungry the whole day. I figured this out 10 years ago.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I swear to God. I was like, then I'll eat the whole day. I'm craving for more food I wanted. If you skip it, then it's just different. You start later on.
So you don't have breakfast?
Yeah, I don't.
When do you start eating?
I don't go by like any specific hour, but I try to prolong it as long as I can.
Okay, so that's sensible, right? And what Luba was just saying, by the way, about the body once you start eating, it is kind of like a drug response.
Got to keep
You-
the furnace going.
You want more. You want, like, especially when
Ben
it
and
comes,
Jerry's ice
when
cream.
especially comes to sugar and carbs. Your body loves sugar and carbs, so
I love pizza. And that's my biggest. That's probably my
You're
biggest.
not eating pizza for breakfast.
No, but I'm saying I love pizza. So in my no bread or pasta or da 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 da. So for me, it's been kind of tough that way. But I thought of maybe doing this, what I'm doing, and if I did also added in the intermittent fasting, I wonder if that would even help even more.
Well, when we had lunch, your goals are extremely reachable. You're like, I want to feel more comfortable in my clothing. I want certain pieces to fit again. There's no number. Like, you're going to get to that goal.
Yeah, I'll get there. But I'm just wondering if you did intermittent fasting along with eating better. You get a twofer.
Twofer. And any financial resolutions that
Nope.
I made one that I'm finishing up at the end of the month, and that was, I try to do this every year. It's simple. I look through
$1 million.
on $1 million with a pinky up. I try to look through things that are nonsense expenditures, and I trim those. But there's some that are
What
not.
would be one?
Here's an example. So, if you have a landline nowadays, you can't really get away with spending less than $45 to $50 a month with basic service.
I got rid of mine last
Not even long distance. You add that up over 12, you're looking at $500, $600, $700. Like one of our lines was $60. It can't go any cheaper. So
That's
$720 a year.
right times 10 years. It's $7,000.
It's a lot of money.
You don't need that line. Cut it.
Well, so what I've decided to do is I found a service online called the Phone Farm, and what they do is you get your number, they park it, and you can leave a voice. It's like the phone normally rings.
What are you paying for it?
Oh, it's $3 or $4 a month. So And that's just going to be for a year. I'm going to transition people away from the home phone. So for a mere
I'll
50,
be curious to see who calls that number.
well, we know that it's only going to be 3 or 4 people, and you could actually leave a voicemail as if it's a normal call, and then the minute the voicemail is left, the service sends you a WAV file, like a little audio thing, and it transcribes it, and you get a text message, so and so just called. So you can call someone right back, hey, I missed your call, sorry, but on the message, we're going to say, please leave a message, or if this is urgent, call one of our cell phones. So if it's somebody who knows us, I'm going to call, whatever. And then after about 6 or 7 months.
Is this the line in the city?
This is the one upstate.
Oh, for God's sakes, cut it. Why would you even waste your money?
It's Bob and I. It's funny to
Who's
hear. Who's
calling?
His mom, friends upstate, some service people call.
All right.
So it's not like it's not used. And the other one that's getting the axe is going to be the city number, the
one's calling
landline.
these
That was a transition. That was a step down. It went from landline to.
I bet you if you talk to your nieces, they don't have landlines.
Nope, they never did. Never did.
My nieces don't even have cable. They use it all through their phone.
Oh, my youngest niece she's a total YouTube. Like she
That's what my
has
nieces
her
do. And I
little.
don't know how they do it, but they do it all through their phone.
All
I
the
think
shows
TV.
are on YouTube, and she doesn't. The whole concept of the cable package is a mystery to them. They're like, "Why would you do that? You just need internet."
Yeah.
All right, what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
I'm shocked that this didn't make it into your portfolio, although you probably did see this. So I saw this headline, but it's been all over the news in the last 2 or 3 days as well. So the headline is U.S. Space Force nameplates are introduced for camouflage uniforms. So, as you know, President Trump has designated the Space Force as a new armed service branch. And so they put this out a few days ago of the uniforms that the Space Force would be wearing. And then, of course, the Twitter universe went crazy, wanting to know what shrubs we were going to be hiding behind in space. Or what?
Yeah, camouflage
Trees
and
were.
space. Now there's a combo for you, right?
So lots of criticism. The one new thing that's happening, if you're watching on the video, so that's the new logo that's been approved for the Space Command. And they're going to be wearing the American flag in full color. So on most military uniforms now, they call it a spice design. So it's just a image of the flag, but it's almost in a two-tone.
To match the
camo. So, but Mr. Trump wanted the full stars and stripes in their full glory. They said that the reason that, so then the Space Force got upset that so many people were being critical about the launch, that they said they're using the same camouflage pattern in order to save taxpayer dollars.
Oh, in other words, they're just picking
using
up with the
established.
Army or-
They're using what they already have, and they said this will also make it so that all members look alike, and their joint counterparts. They said also most of the Space Force works on ground. Anyway,
satellite control, rocket control, yeah.
and he said, which I didn't believe, but he said that they were also going to be designing a new uniform, and they weren't sure. Because most of the uniforms were the same color, which I don't agree. Isn't the Navy or the Air Force some sort of blue? What service is white? Maybe it's the Navy's white, the Air Force is blue, Marines are green.
Oh, whenever I think of white uniforms, I think of Tom Cruise in the movie A Few Good Men when they go down to Guantanamo Bay and he had to wear the whites.
The whites.
And that was their formal dress uniforms, or white.
So the Space Force. Now listen, how many people do you think are employed in the Space Force right now?
Is it a guessable number?
I think it's guessable. So there's the U.S. Space Force is led by Chief of Space Operations General John Raymond. He was the first member of the new service, and there are this many airmen that are part of the new Space Force thus far. Do you want to take a guess?
100?
You both have to guess how many people
For
would
some
be in the
reason, I
Space
thought like thousands, but I don't think it's a lot of people.
10,000.
10,000?
50.
50,000? 50 people.
50 people.
So I was shocked by this number, 16,000
It's right
members of the Space Force right now. They're going to have to be, once it's officially done through the act, which they said...
Wait. 16,000 people?
16,000 people work for the U.S. Space Command as of now. Once the funding bill goes through Congress, which is the National Defense Authorization Act for 2020, and it's improved as an independent agency within the military, then they will have to unlist from the current service they're in and then re-enlist under the Space Force. But right now they got 16,000 people dedicated to it. And they're hiring. So if you're interested in a job at Space Force, go to usajobs.gov. They have a number of jobs for research analysts, program managers, strategic deterrence, all kinds of things. Sounds like a pretty cool gig, Mr. Nash. Be part of the Space Force. I think the color should be gray, battleship gray. Like all the little movies you like to watch, I tell you, Star Trek and Star Wars, everything's gray, right? These little capsules they're all flying around in are gray.
Aluminum, gray, take
Right?
your pick.
What would you?
yeah.
What color? Well, you're not going to do LeMay.
No, but I said aluminum.
Aluminum.
Or gray.
But what would you do for a Space Force outfit? Would you do a color? I think gray, battleship gray.
Gray's not bad, right? Gray's probably a flattering color, right?
You have to be careful with gray. It's stained.
Get stained. You will in orbit if something happens and the
Tinkle.
coffee goes. Yeah.
So that was what caught my eye.
What caught my eye was this headline. I'm not sure I agree with it, but it says middle-age misery peaks at 47.2, an economist says.
So 47, you're 47 years old in 2 months.
47.2.
That's your misery.
And
That's
then
when you're
that's
most
your
miserable?
peak misery of middle age.
I wonder why.
Well, here's how it goes. It says middle age is miserable, according to a new economic study, which pinpoints 47.2 as the moment of peak unhappiness in the developed world. Dartmouth College professor David Blanchflower, a former Bank of England policymaker, studied data across 132 countries to measure the relationship between well-being and age. He concluded that in every country there is a happiness curve, which is U-shaped over the lifetime, and it reaches its lowest point in the developed nations at 48.2. So it's 47, 48. And he says the curve's trajectory holds true in countries where the median wage is high and where it is not, and where people tend to live longer and where they don't. So whether you're making a lot of money or not, live long or not, it's all the same. He wrote.
What would be the purpose of the study?
Well, he wrote this in a study for the National Bureau of Economic Research. And one reason they cite for this is that the research is increasing relevance at a time when there is mounting awareness within societies of the importance of safeguarding mental health, especially in the wake of the financial crisis. This was actually what I found interesting, because he says the resiliency of communities left behind by globalization was diminished by the Great Recession, which made it especially hard for the vulnerable undergoing a midlife crisis with few resources. So let's say you were in your mid to late 40s when 2008 hit. You're immediately, what most people lost 30% of their investments.
Retirement.
Poof, gone. You're thinking, I'm going to retire in 10, 12, whatever the number of years is. And now that changed everything, right? So
Yeah, I thought it was just initially I thought it was just half of life expectancy.
Oh. Well, that
I thought it was
depends.
more cerebral.
No.
You're thinking it's economic based, or
That's what they say. Yeah, that's what he says. That you can actually pinpoint that number. Like at 47 is when moving beyond that, maybe you have greater confidence in your.
Do you remember when you're 47?
Yeah, I was happy at 47. I wasn't miserable. I'm not miserable now either. That's why this whole unhappiness curve.
When would that have been? 2014?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Yeah, right? 10 years, 6 years? How old? I don't know.
No. It would be 9.
9, okay. I don't know. I have to look back and think. I don't. Could you pinpoint a year you were happiest?
I don't know. That's a great question. Happiest, like.
You know what I mean? If they say you have this dip to despair, I wonder if they also, is there an age where people are most
Peak.
content or most happy? Or
Never going to be happier than when you were 32 point.
It's like that woman from the TED Talk, right? You're never gonna. You're 25 years old and you've written the book. That's it.
You peaked.
Yeah, it's To Kill a Mockingbird, right? It's the same thing. I got one. I'm done. One and done. Write the book.
Interesting. It's an interesting question to actually ask. I imagine if somebody asked you that on an interview. When were you happiest? What was the happiest year? Like, would you categorize that as a time frame, or would it be like the job? I don't know.
I guess you can make it, well, you could do exactly what you did. You can make it up and say I was happiest when, and it could be that I was in a learning environment, or I fell in love with cycling, or whatever it could be, right? It could be that sort of thing. But it's a hard question. I think it's a very...
Is it real? Is it really? Could you answer that?
No. That's why I asked you.
Because the more I think about it, I do have very particular fond memories of certain aspects of life. One of them was back in high school when we had our first jobs.
Right.
So there was a sense of independence. You had pocket change.
You weren't happy. I mean, did you like going to work after school every day? I didn't.
Well,
You had to.
This is an interesting
You had to
thing.
do homework.
I wonder if hindsight wipes away any of the emotions. Like, I have nothing but fond thoughts for my first job, which is Marshall's,
Right.
brand names for less. I could imagine, though, that if I was back being 16 or 17, I might not want to be
Where we grew up, a lot of people didn't have to work.
correct. That's right.
So we would be
I didn't resent it, but
No,
you and
but
I
you know,
definitely
we were left out of stuff and didn't get to do things because we had a number of friends that didn't have to work, and then or their parents didn't have them work. But if you had homework to do, I remember I'd have to work till 9 o'clock at night,
You closed the
Golden
shop,
books.
and then you went
and then go home and figure out homework. Where most kids probably were way done with homework.
watching sports or something. Yeah.
I guess you figured it out.
And I was happy in college.
I was very happy in college. Yeah,
You're independent, you're on your own, you're away from home. In your case, it was...
college was the best thing.
oh, my
When I
God.
think about it now, if I read half of what I was supposed to, I'd be brilliant.
So I was like 4 hours from home. You were about 12?
More
10?
8-ish, 10-ish.
Okay, but it was a...
Yeah, you
wasn't
couldn't come home
easy.
on the weekend.
No, and I couldn't
Neither of
come
us could
home
come
either.
home on the weekends.
And that was a big thing. But I look back on that now, and I'm like, wow, what were my problems then? And you and I also, we had jobs in college, we had scholarships, we had to pay for our own schooling. So there was a lot of responsibility, but at the same time, it was kind of cool now that I think about it. But
I
again,
tell everybody that friends of mine who have children that are off to college, and I do think it's, if you have the ability or the opportunity to go away, I think it certainly is helpful. And your experience will be quite different. But I say to a lot of people, enjoy it because you won't know it now, but it's probably going to be one of the best times of your life. You'll meet people that you're friends with for life in some cases, and it's a pretty cool thing when you think about it. You go to class, you learn stuff if you pay attention. Sports, friends,
again,
somebody's making food for you.
I come back to the independent part.
Yeah.
You are technically on your own, and that's a pretty interesting thing.
That's how I hired people. The most successful people I hired. I don't know if you know my whole department was everybody went away to school somewhere. Now I could be criticized for that, I suppose, but with the type of work they had to do, they had to be away a lot, and they had to be away from families a
Self-reliant.
lot.
They
And
had to be reliant,
travel on
yeah.
weekends. And so I thought if you had gone away to college somewhere, so if you were in Philadelphia and you went to school in Michigan or Wisconsin, that you'd probably be okay on the weekend to take off and do what you needed to do at the ski resort or something.
Yeah, it's it's a funny. I wonder if you asked your mom that question. Like both our parents are aging.
When they were happiest?
When they were happiest, yeah. And you would expect. I suppose that
After our birth.
I suppose the cheesy answer would be you would expect them to say right now, I'm happiest. But no, I wonder if there was a moment that someone says crystal clear, boy, that was a really special.
It's interesting. You should watch if you haven't, so it's on YouTube, but if you watch the George Bush funeral. So former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney was very good friends with the Bushes, as with the Reagans, but good friends with the Bushes, and he addresses this very topic. He said in the eulogy, at the very end of the eulogy, he says that he had sensed a change in George and Barbara Bush after they had retired and the kids had run for president, whatever, the youngest son. And he talks about how he had this conversation with Bush about when he was happiest. And it was in his older life. Because he looked back on his life and all the success.
all he had accomplished, his legacy.
Gave him happiness.
Yeah.
And he talked about Sivu, which is a military thing where clear ceiling above visibility unlimited or something. I forget the exact words, but it was interesting to hear him say that. And
He could actually articulate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good question, I guess. Oh.
Business birthday.
Yeah,
Everyone
I
does
was,
celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Now, well, this is a good business birthday, I think. Born January 22nd, 1915, died July 17th, 1984. Almost died earlier than that, because I'll tell you a little story. But Sam Popeil. Now, he was the inventor of the Vegematic and the Chop-O-Matic. His son was Ron Popeil. Set it and forget it.
That's the one. That's the one I was
But
thinking.
Sam started this.
I didn't know there was a whole family.
Whole family of them. Oh, there was uncles and everything. So so Sam Popeil was the former head of the company that developed and manufactured household gadgets such as the Vegematic, Pocket Fisherman, all those sort of things that were done on late night television. And I was going to run one of the commercials, but you can go to YouTube and see all the old Vegematic and Chop-O-Matic commercials. But several of Popeil's uncles, he started as a product demonstrator in department stores with his uncles. And one day, one of his uncles was sick, and so he went and filled in. He said it was quite an ordeal. He was very scared. He was 17 years old. He cut his finger pretty bad, and but he ended up getting the taste for wanting to do this, and so they started this company, which they founded Popeil Brothers in New York in 1939. They moved to Chicago in the 40s. And then he entered television in the early days. He used to buy off-air advertising spots for like $7 a minute or something. Remember we talked about this?
Yes,
with other things.
yeah. There was the car guy out in California who
Right.
owned late night, right?
So by the 60s and 70s, they had saturated the market with ads for everything from the Vegematic to the Pocket Fisherman to the Dial-O-Matic. He and the son broke off. The son got upset and went and started his own company, Ron Popeil, Ronco, who went bankrupt, by the way.
So
And forget it. He did the spray hair. Remember, he had the
yeah. So I wonder if they talk about this. So father and son broke off.
Yeah, the son decided he wanted to do his own thing. So they had one of the last gigs that Sam Popeil did was the Pocket Fisherman. They were 1995, and in 1973, in the first year, he sold over 2 million. Can you imagine?
Of the
Pocket
Pocket
Fisherman.
Fisherman.
So anyway, his son got upset, and they broke off, and he started his own company, and then that went south. And so Popeil died of a heart attack in 79. But as I was poking around, back in 1974, apparently his wife's name was Eloise Popeil. And she was they called her a blue-eyed, blonde-haired Newport Beach socialite. And she got mad. She felt that that Sam Popeil was too stifling and had her car marked with a little gadget to trace where she was going. This is in the 70s, right? So it wasn't the GPS thing, but had her phones bugged and everything else. So she got a boyfriend.
While they're married.
Oh, while they're married. So she finds this boyfriend, and they decide they're going to kill Sam Popeil.
Whoa. This is real.
Oh, yeah. So wait till you hear what happens. So she and her boyfriend, Dan Ayers, she solicits, she's dating him. This is in the 72, 73, 74. He worked at an airplane manufacturing company and found two yahoos, Don Reed and Rob Peeler, that they were going to pay him $25,000 plus a pair of dangly earrings and some other jewelry to kill Ron.
To do the deed.
Or, I'm sorry, kill Sam. Right.
Do the deed.
Gonna kill Sam. So what happened was Reed was the smarter of the two and decided he probably should record some of these phone conversations. So they had it all in court. This phone conversation.
Oh my God.
So what happened was this guy Reed calls the police and says, "Hey, this woman's trying to hire us to kill her husband." So they were going to kill him one of two ways. They were either going to apply him with sleeping pills.
God.
Seriously?
Seriously?
Force feeding him sleeping pills. And then if that didn't happen, because they thought if they did that, it would look like suicide. If that didn't happen, her boyfriend, Dan, says, just blow his head off and forget it if he doesn't. So the judge says he can't unhear this.
Yeah, I can't unhear it either. I had no idea this drama was in the Popeil family. My God.
So so they end up They get caught. The police catch them. So they get together. They hand over the $25,000, a set of dangly earrings, several other rings as a security deposit. And as soon as they handed the goods over, they were arrested by the police. They were sentenced to 1 to 5 years in prison. Here's the best part. Eloise served 19 months at the Women's Correctional Facility, and she was awarded a divorce settlement. However, they got back together and later remarried. She and Sam got remarried, 76.
Did you?
Didn't see it coming, did you?
No. I didn't see any of this because Ron Popeil
Is the son, which is the one we
is
all
the
know.
one we all know.
Sam is the daddy.
So, but we had as kid, we had a Vegematic.
I like the Chop-O-Matic. I like
I
it.
love it. It was that round.
They still make 'em.
Potatoes. You make
Yeah.
French fries, the whole bit. And I remember Pocket Fisherman. I remember my granddad was a fisherman. I remember when Pocket Fisherman was available, and that was you had to have a whole rod. You couldn't do the Pocket Fisherman.
The last thing they did was the rotisserie. Remember,
was
set it and forget it.
Set it and forget it. So
The toaster oven.
the fact that she went out of her way, first she
Knocked
thought
off.
she was being
She's being surveilled. She's
overly stifled, right?
Right.
She's stifled. Then she hires goons. It's almost like Tanya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan, right? I mean,
She said she felt she was followed all the time since their marriage in '64. He had my phones bugged. He had electronic beeping devices on my cars. He was insanely jealous of everything and everyone.
but after all that, and after the fact that you know that your wife
to kill
wife
you.
tried to have you killed,
The boyfriend got back together.
then it's after the jail time.
Yeah, got back together. Well, what you gonna do?
Well, there is no truer statement than the devil you know versus the devil you don't, right? Oh my word! Good business birthday. That definitely makes
Sam Popeil.
in my opinion.
Sam
That's
Popeil.
that one's-
Sometimes we get a good one.
That's a book because you could just mention casually what he did, but then there's this whole thing.
Wife's gonna kill you, and then I got back together. I thought, why not?
Hey, we want to welcome a new partner of ours here at the Focus Group, and it's Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com. If you haven't been, I urge you to visit. If you're a business owner, a freelancer, frankly, if you need any type of stuff done specifically, logos, copywriting, video editing, illustration, all
Web development,
all
voiceover.
kind of artists are at Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com. I've used the service many, many times myself. Even though I'm a graphic artist, I do not do my own best work. And I've often hired Fiverr artists to do logos or things like that because it just jars you into a different way of thinking. In fact, a Fiverr designer designed the primary layout of our website,
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
the grouping of
You didn't tell me that.
Well, there you go, folks. Fiverr.com, right?
You know what I like about it, though, is you and I have experienced this a lot with people, and we've done it ourselves. Is, hey, does anyone know a copywriter?
Oh yeah,
Or
yeah,
can-
yeah.
Or I need a logo. I need some logo ideas for this company I'm working with. They're going to start a new division and just want some ideas. And you can go to Fiverr.com and you can start selecting people. And as you always say, you get what you pay for. So
Yeah.
you want to probably pay. We would recommend you want to go with the more premium services because you do get what you pay for.
Or I frame it this way. Let's say you need a logo design. You're doing a website or you're working on a small business. But let's say someone starts a floral design company or something. And you don't really know what you want per se. Maybe you've seen logos that you like in the marketplace. I would recommend you grab some of those and put them into a document to give to the designer you hire on Fiverr. Just say, here's stuff that I like, because that gives them a frame of reference. But let's say you decide you want to spend $50 to explore logo development. You could actually go and hire 3 or 4 designers.
$50 a piece because you know what
Or
you don't have to
$10.
negotiate. You don't have
Yeah.
to negotiate, and you know it's.
Or you could do like 4 designers at $10 and say, and they give you their stuff, and
great
now
idea.
you have a pool of like, oh, these are ideas, and maybe you like your best one, maybe you then go to a different one or go back to someone you used that you like, because you could do that too. You can get a logo for $10, but maybe you want changes, and then the designer says, hey, I'm happy to take it to the next level. How about this for the price? But you'll never beat the pricing, in my opinion, because you can go to a design firm for a brand mark, and a brand mark can cost thousands of dollars.
Yeah. No, but what's great about this is there's no negotiation. You do know right up front because as you select, that's the price you pay. So it's a great service that puts you in touch with business professionals that you can use to move your business forward. So welcome to the focus group for Fiverr. So on your first order, if you go and use the service, you'll get 10% off your first order if you use the code FOCUS at checkout. So if you go to Fiverr.com, it's 5RR, so FIVERR.com. And if you type in the code FOCUS at checkout, you'll get 10% off your first order, which is pretty cool.
And just go to that menu and check out all the things you can have done. It's revelatory, in my opinion. It's a cool thing.
So thanks again to Fiverr. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, John found a story about punctuality. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
John found a story about punctuality.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett. Focusgroupradio.com. That's our website, and everything is there that you need to know about us, and all our media is there, video, audio, both audio podcasts, the Focus Group proper and Unbuttoned, which comes out on Tuesdays. You could subscribe to that as well through all the services you like. You're smiling about something.
Well, when you mentioned something there, it triggered, and I don't know if we still have it or not, was the gay box, the gay bot. We still have that?
Yes. So
Did you record them all?
I have them recorded, but Garrett did something several weeks ago where we were joking around with that story I told with the movers. Every time they move the box, who do you got to blow to get a drink around here? Right. Well, that show goes, and we do our little thing. At the very end of the show, when right before we're closing out, Garrett hit the thing, which I heard from a number of listeners was like, oh my God, we couldn't stop laughing. So now I think, Garrett, you know what I think we might...
the new end for the show?
Maybe I gave you a random bunch of these, and we're surprised by what he hits.
That's interesting.
We don't know. So he'll know what they are. Maybe there's 6 or 8 he could call up. Is
that going to be the new ending then?
Because there's one goes, girl, or you look fine, all that,
Yeah.
It's very on PC. In fact, how long ago did you get this thing?
Spencer Gifts.
10 or 12 years ago?
At least. Yeah.
It's in the plastic. It still plays. The batteries are kicking. One of these days I have to take those batteries out. I don't want that to get crusty. But
yeah, they can
Gary,
never make
you like that idea? Should we do that maybe?
Sure, I love it.
Do you have the things?
I have 2 of them.
Oh, you only have the 2. I'll have to get you the other ones then.
Do you want to hear the 2?
No.
Oh, maybe you surprise us at the end.
Okay.
Maybe hit them both. Make a whole bit. Make a sentence.
Who do you have to blow to get a
Girl,
drink
who do you have to blow to get a girl?
That was Tim's original plan. We were on the other platform, and we thought we could have a conversation with the chatterbox.
Answer questions with it, yeah.
So the box would say something, and then we would answer back, and yeah, it reminded me of a rocket that kept blowing up a foot off the ground and failed to achieve orbit. That idea failed at launch, but with that funny little random thing that Garrett did at the end of one of those broadcasts, which was just
maybe it'd be resurrected
as a random funny, Yeah. All right, so back on course here. I found an article in Inc. magazine. It was an essay, actually, and it's not scientific per se, but it's the gentleman who wrote it talks about why punctuality is the single best indicator, in his opinion, of potential success. And he says that looking back on over 30 years of hiring, punctuality has stood out as the best indicator to him of who succeeds. He talks about starting a company, and originally was something out of their living room and then the garage, and then eventually the company grew, and they took offices in downtown Boston, and he had a long-standing habit of having a meeting at 8 in the morning on Fridays. And what he decided was he was going to keep this 8 in the morning meeting, even though they're in downtown Boston, and a commute for some people could be 60 minutes or 90 minutes. And he decided from observation that the people that did not complain, that showed up at 8 and did the meeting, were usually the most successful people that he had hired or had worked with. I'm not sure if
You said if you were late for the 8 o'clock, you'd also be late for a 2 o'clock or a 3.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just the hour.
Well, he
You were
said,
always late for me.
and to exactly what you referenced, he says, I soon realized that the people who complained about showing up at 8 were the same people who were late to most meetings, no matter what time of day, which was interesting, right? Let's see what else he says here. As I look back now at the success of the people I then worked with, I realize that punctuality has been an incredibly prescient way to identify the people who could or would go on to succeed. Here's the thing about punctuality. You can't convince people who don't see it as important that it's important, and those who believe it is important hold on to it like a religion. There's also science that points at that, the why part of that. And and he says, studies have shown that people who are punctual are typically type A, who perceive time differently than type B. Now, this is interesting to me, or more laid-back personalities. According to research, people who are type A perceive a minute passing in 58 seconds. So a type A person thinks they feel a minute is like 58 seconds, whereas those who are type B perceive a minute to be 77 seconds. I don't know how they figured that one out. That may not seem like much, but it's about a 30% delta, meaning a vector change. So if we were to extrapolate, that means a difference of about 7 hours over the course of a day for how you think of a minute versus how I think of a minute. That may explain why type A personalities rarely waste time and always wish that there was more time in the day.
I had a doctor that was the most...
First, did you agree with any of this?
Yes, I totally agree with
Okay.
it, because any employee that I've ever had or anybody that I've seen that's been successful in business is punctual.
Yep.
If you're not punctual, it's somewhat, I used to view it as being disrespectful, but obviously things do happen, but if you're notoriously late, I could think about them now, I had a number of employees that were never on time, always late, always in some sort of level of turmoil.
Something was going on,
Right.
yeah.
But I had a dentist, Craig Wakefield was his name. He's since retired, and he was the most punctual. If you had a cleaning at 12:30, you were in the chair at 12:30.
How long did he retire?
Just recently, like
Because
the
you
last 2 or 3
used
years.
to talk about him.
What I loved about him, though, is I would be petrified if I was a minute late because he'd be looking at his watch, but he ran his practice. So because he was in Center City, Philly, and he knew people had to
Get in,
get out. So he had it down to a science. And I had a friend of mine I referred to him who was late twice, and then the dentist said to him, I can't have you as a patient anymore.
Did he really?
Yeah. And the guy was really mad at me, my friend Scott. And he said, why? And he said, because you've been late twice. I run this office based upon a pretty tight schedule. I'm only open 4 days a week or whatever, so my time is important. And if you can't be here on time, you got 2 chances and you're done. So he had to go find a new dentist.
Wow.
But now he has since sold the practice, and a lot of myself and a number of other friends who experienced Dr. Wakefield are now not so happy because I could sit and wait half hour, 45 minutes before.
You bring up something
Like a doctor's office, right? Doctor's appointments. I hate when you go there and you're sitting for an hour.
You have to build it in, and yet you have to be on time.
Yeah.
Now, the dentist thing, the punctuality. All right, so before we get too far off the mark here, I happen to agree with this as well. It's anecdotal. I think the science of how certain people experience a minute versus others is interesting. You can't use this as a hiring guide per se. But
You're a mix. You're a little more lax because I think it's you had your own business.
Well, yeah, and with the business, with all the businesses, especially the last 2 agencies, I was usually the first in and usually the last out. So I'm not sure where punctuality figured into that. Well, there's some laughter.
You were first in and first out, and in most places that have been late.
No, I was the
It's a
first.
pretty loose shop.
Well, no. Loose was me getting in before 9, Greg showing up at 11, going to lunch at 1, and
done at 2.
having a shot of whiskey with his nephew at 2, and they're done.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
That was
Pretty loose digs.
But me, I kept to a personal schedule. But I look at punctuality more like what the dentist experience you had, because our dentist was the same way. They ran at you got like 5 messages. Did you confirm your appointment? And I really appreciated that, because it was truly a half-hour appointment. You could get in and you were done, and I can't stand the other way around. Now, yeah,
so if you say you're going to, this is a good question for you, because this has happened to me recently. So if you told friends, let's take work out of it for a second. But if you told friends you were going to meet them for lunch at noon.
Yeah. So you're wondering is it noon sharp or?
What do you usually?
We have friends of mine and I call it the 10 to 15 variance rule. So 10 minutes, no one even bats an eyelash, because it's the train, you walk down the block, something happened, whatever. Later than that, there's a problem, right? There's.
Yeah, I've been the same way as you. As somebody says, we have dinner. Dinner's at our house at 7 or 6:30.
I would never show up at 6:30 or 7 on the dot.
Well, guess what? I'm learning a whole new thing in Delaware, boy.
Okay. That's great.
I was
Seriously?
10 minutes late, and the phone rang. Something wrong? Are you coming for dinner? Yeah, I'm just getting in the car. 7, okay. I've had, and not one, but I would say 4 different groups of friends that I've met down in Delaware. They're pretty tight about cocktails at 6:30 means 6:30, not 6:35. Not 6:25 either, but 6:30 means 6:30. Or if you're meeting me at the bar for a drink at 7 o'clock, you're there at 7 o'clock. So I'm with you kind of like 7:10, 7:05, whatever. I'll get there, 7-ish. Not in Delaware. Very odd to me. Now, this might just be the group of friends I'm hanging with. You're going to meet Pat and Gary for dinner upstate at 6:30.
Prime example.
Are you there right at 6:30?
10. It's like 6:30.
6:30-ish.
Yeah, ish.
No,
and it
6:30.
worked. It worked to our advantage this past weekend. So Saturday, upstate, it was Snowmageddon.
Right.
They predicted 4 to 6, possibly, between late afternoon Saturday and Sunday morning, which automatically you're not talking about like crazy blizzard. It's just snow. People were on. We went to the grocery store. It was milk and bread, lines down the aisles. You'd think we better buy our fuel. Everybody, the checkout people were laughing. They thought it was hysterical because they have to work.
Yeah,
they're not being let off. But we go to meet Pat and Gary for dinner, and the first restaurant we were going to go to, we forgot they closed for January. They take the month off.
Just because they don't have the traffic.
So we're on our way. We're driving like 25 miles an hour because it's snowing, but we're being careful, 25, 30. And with an all-wheel drive vehicle, as Tim will tell you, as long as you're giving gas to the car and the wheels are engaged, you're in good shape. So we're moving along. Bob gets a text. We forgot about Blue Plate's closed. Okay, so then it was, let's go to this other place. They're closed because of the snow. And so by the time we arrived where we were supposed to be, which is we're talking a span of 3-4 minutes here, they had already found the place across the street that we had at, and they were at the table when we got there. They're actually, I think Pat and Gary are better. I think they're extremely punctual. They are extremely punctual. Now, we have a friend.
Richard's very punctual, and that's where so I'm wondering if that's part of the issue, because all his friends they're slave to one guy, literally, it was 7:01. Are you meeting us? Yeah.
But now let me ask you something. So I've often wondered about this. So we had dinner Monday night with our neighbor Barbara down the hall, and we love her. And dinner was at 7:30. 7:30 roll. Now we're literally walking down the hall, right? So 7:30 comes, but Bob did something, and suddenly it was 7:35, and we show up at like 7:38, 7:40.
He's probably mad at you.
No, it was let's get what would you like? You want a martini? You want this? The evening gets going right away. But I did puzzle about it because I've always thought that you didn't go right on time.
That's what I always thought.
Because no host in the world or hostess expects you at that. But apparently I'm not quite right about this, right?
Listen, you'll next time you come down to Rehoboth, you'll see. 6:30 means 6:30. 7 means 7. There's no ish. There's no ish in Delaware.
I think the last time we went down, we had that wonderful dinner at Carl and Mark's. We were pretty much on time for that, I think.
Carl and Mark are on time. They're within.
Oh, yeah,
within
yeah,
minutes.
yeah.
No, maybe it's their government work. I don't know. It's very efficient. Now, Delaware in general, I don't think is that way, but call it slower, lower Delaware.
Lower Delaware. Okay.
Slower Delaware, wherever I am. So. Well, anyway, no, I agree with that whole punctuality thing. As
a indicator or a precursor of someone's success. Yeah.
Particularly people that would get in early.
Yeah.
They got in early, and I was not one of those people. I would try to get in on time, but no, I had people that one particular employee. She was
Yeah. Here's the flip side of you not showing up at 9. You're often there till 6, 7, 8 at night doing the work you couldn't do from 9 to 5 because you were being busy in meetings all day, or other people were late.
Or you stayed till after 10 because you had a call with Tokyo.
There you go. And the time change, right? The time change.
Right, Tokyo. Hey, thanks for joining us today. Be sure to go to focusgroupradio.com and check on all of our programming as well as our Tuesday podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned. You can find out all about us and our programming at focusgroupradio.com. Thanks to Steve and Garrett. Thank you, John. Thanks to our new sponsor, Fiverr. FIVVER.com. If you're a freelance or if you're a small business or someone who has a project, you can find some great freelance talent there for just about any project that you have going. And on your first order, you'll get 10% off if you use the code FOCUS. So head over to Fiverr.com. It's FIVERR. Thank you. Oh, remember, don't text and drive. Some idiot almost hit me the other day. I was so mad I leaned on the horn.
The phone's right up there.
Yeah. And then he held the phone up to show me that. I'm sorry, I was on the phone. Get off the phone. Don't text to drive, arrive alive.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
It's not homophobia, sugar. Everyone hates you.